This is Danny from Real Nice Gamers, and today I'm talking about Hollow Knight. For those unfamiliar, Hollow Knight is one of the many indie Metroidvania games released in the past few years, but unlike its contemporaries, Hollow Knight's immaculate level design, beautiful world, and stellar gameplay set it apart. It is so well done that it completely redefines what a Metroidvania game should be. In Hollow Knight, you play as the Knight, just the Knight, not the Hollow Knight. The Knight has made his way to Hallownest, a once great kingdom that is now in ruin. With very little exposition, the Knight explores Hallownest in an effort to learn its secrets. As soon as the player drops down the well and into Hallownest, they are presented with a decision, either go right or left. Most games, even Metroidvanias, will start the player off with an obvious direction. Even if it seems like there are multiple options, most games will almost immediately put a wall in front of the player to direct them in the right direction. But with Hollow Knight, either direction is a viable option. This is a game about exploration, and the player is free to explore in whichever way they choose. This setup at the entrance of the world is a message to the player. Explore the world how you see fit. There's no right or wrong way to traverse Hallownest. If you can reach that ledge or make it through that door, go ahead. It is all up to you. Hollow Knight also has a more organic type of map system. Most games will fill out each room as the player enters it, but in Hollow Knight, the player must first find the map maker in each room. The maps he sells will have a bit of the area drawn out, but it is up to the player to fill in the rest of the map. It won't be filled in immediately, however. The map can only be filled out while on a bench, which is what the game uses as a save point. After sitting down, the game will fill in the parts of the world that the player has just explored. Of course, it wouldn't be a Metroidvania without enhancements that improve the player's ability to move around the world and open up new locations. But what is different about Hollow Knight is the number of options that open up whenever a new item is received. This is a very different ideology to most other Metroidvania games. Let's take a look at Super Metroid, for instance. While it may seem a lot more open at first glance, the way that Zebes is traversed is surprisingly linear if we take a closer look, unless of course exploits or speedrunning tactics are used. After the introduction, which is intentionally linear, any playthrough of the game will happen in this order. Bombs will be unlocked to enter Brintstar to find the super missiles to open the path to Norfair, which leads to high jump boots which allow the fight against Kraid for the Various suit to unlock the speed booster to get the ice beam to reach the power bombs which leads to the grappling hook and... well, you get my point. There's a path created by the designer that the player is meant to follow. Samus will always, no matter what, fight the main bosses in the same order. Kraid, Phantoon, Dragon, Ridley, and Motherbrain. And yes, I did have to look up Phantoon and Dragon, because I don't know what their names are. Don't get me wrong, Super Metroid is a fantastic game, one of the best ever made, and these are all intentional design decisions to keep the player from getting too lost. Except maybe for this part. But this example is only to contrast the way that Hollow Knight approaches exploration. In Super Metroid, the player can explore away from the intended path, but must always return to it, while in Hollow Knight, the player is allowed to just pick a direction and go. To be honest, the freedom in Hollow Knight took me a little while to get used to. I was constantly wondering if I was going the right way and kept getting worried about getting lost. But as soon as I came to the realization that there really was no right direction, the game opened up and I discovered the brilliance of this design. Any direction that you can go is a good way to go, and if the player runs into a roadblock, simply take that other fork and keep going. In this way, no two playthroughs of Hollow Knight are the same. In discussing the game with my friends after my first playthrough, I found that they had reached areas that I had considered late game early, and vice versa. I mean, Tom even managed to beat the game without acquiring a very important item that is supposed to be required. The brilliance of this design started to appear for me about halfway through the game, when the map started becoming a little more filled out. I found myself staring at the map trying to decide where to go next. I thought to myself, I could go try to fight that boss that absolutely trounced me a few hours back, or I can go into that shiny crystal area with that ledge that had a jump I couldn't reach before, or I could go into that dark area I was too afraid to go into last time. In that moment, it hit me that there are so many areas available to explore at any given time that it becomes a joy deciding where to go next. Now let's contrast that with a similar moment in a game like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. We played through this game a while back, and there are a few times where we were just staring at the map, not deciding where we wanted to go, but trying to figure out where we needed to go. There are plenty of open spots on the map, but only one would progress the game. It was a very frustrating situation to be in, having to guess at the correct direction and wasting time with every wrong decision. Yeah, we went as far as we could.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's that area that's sort of cut out at the top, like second from the top up there.
I thought we just
right?
stopped.
No.
Okay.
That was as far as we could get. So I think there's the one opening we can see is in the middle.
And yeah, the bottom middle chamber.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Where
Go for it.
Where that little black hole is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And one more important thing about the openness of Hollow Knight's world is that it allows the player to leave a boss or difficult area for later with maybe a little bit of shame. But you never feel trapped because there's always another avenue to explore. Now, the complete openness of this world will have the player backtracking and going through some of the same areas quite a bit, which is par for the course for just about any Metroidvania game. But the frustration this could cause is mitigated by just how beautiful Hollow Nest is. From the grass petals that flow behind you in Green Path, the lamps lit up by lightning bugs that fly away when you break the grass, to the rain that drenches the City of Tears, this world is a wonder to behold. Take a look at everything happening in the background as an elevator goes up or as a door is opened. The love and detail put into every inch of this game is astounding. A great example of this is an item in the game that will suck up currency from the ground and bring it to the character. This is something that is common in many other games, but in Hollow Knight, they just don't fly on their own. Little glowing bugs appear and actually fly them over to you. This is one of the many little details that add up to making this game world feel truly alive and real. Even hazards such as falling stalactites will hurt enemies and not just the player. Team Cherry's meticulous attention to detail makes Hollow Knight a wonder to behold. Bringing the immersion together is the music and the sound design. Christopher Larkin's soundtrack has a sad, dreamy feeling that is perfect for exploring the remains of a once great civilization. His score also nails the creepy factor in certain areas and drives up the intensity of the boss fights. Along with the soundtrack, the sound design of the enemies and world are absolutely top-notch. Almost everything in the game has a unique sound. The ambient noises like rainfall or the scurrying of little bugs help to add to this living world. There are sounds that help you find your way, such as the familiar hum of Cornifer, the map maker, or the crying of a trapped grub, one of the collectibles in the game. Most importantly, every enemy attack or hazard makes a specific noise to warn you of incoming danger. As a player becomes familiar with these sounds, they will instinctively get out of the way of a dive-bombing bellfly when they hear the screech, or back away to avoid a stalactite that is breaking from above. Even part of learning the boss's tells has to do with the specific sounds they are making, which hint at what attack is to come. In this way, the enemy sounds are not only adding to the immersion, but to the gameplay as well. And the gameplay in Hollow Knight is rock solid. We spent so much time discussing the world of Hollow Knight, but none of that matters if the game is not fun to play. Fortunately, the gameplay holds up as well as every other aspect of the game. Movement feels great, and the upgrades that add to the maneuverability of the character continuously give the player new tools that aid in both combat and traversal. The skill required to tackle enemies and bosses ramps up decently as you gain more abilities and new areas to explore. But this is the type of game that doesn't just strengthen the character, it gradually trains the player to be better at the game. As the difficulty curve rises and the player gains more abilities, just the act of playing the game trains the player. They may have difficulty with a few falling rocks in the first boss, but by the end, they'll be flying through the air and avoiding projectiles that look more like they came from a bullet hell shooter than an action game. With ease. Well, relative ease anyways. While the game can be difficult, it never quite crosses the line into rage-inducing territory when it comes to the required bosses needed to beat the game. However, defeating all the optional bosses and unlocking the true ending will require facing some real challenges. But even though these encounters are tough, they are still fair. Hollow Knight has an almost Dark Souls-like feel, where even though the player may fail, they are always left with the sense that it was due to lack of skill as opposed to unfair enemy design. Every death to these tough bosses brings the player one step closer to winning. As the enemy's attacks and tells are learned, the encounters become easier until the challenge is overcome. And speaking of Dark Souls, Team Cherry seems to be taking a page out of their playbook when it comes to the story. It is told mainly through the atmosphere with a few friendly and some not so friendly NPCs who will add a little bit of context. Even with all that, it is up to the player, well, okay, let's be honest, the internet, to really put all the pieces together. It is a story about a once great kingdom that has fallen to ruin, and we have to piece together what happened using what is left over, a few of the former inhabitants and the ruins left behind. When all is said and done, Team Cherry has without a doubt raised the bar significantly for the Metroidvania genre. The staples of the genre have always been exploration and the character upgrades that allow that exploration to go further. Prior to Hollow Knight, even some of the best Metroidvania games remove that openness of complete exploration. Most often, this is to serve the gameplay by keeping the player contained to an area to avoid getting lost, or to help facilitate a story. There's nothing inherently wrong with that approach. But even so, most of these games have a progression system similar to a standard Zelda game, wherein a player must unlock items in a predetermined order which progressively open up more on the map, one blocked path at a time. Using this analogy, it is not unreasonable to say that Hollow Knight is to other Metroidvania games as Breath of the Wild is to standard Zelda games. Hollow Knight throws away the linear acquisition of items in favor of a more alive and open world, and, even more impressively, is able to do this while also maintaining a coherent story, and most importantly, keeping the player from getting lost. Allowing the player to explore the world in their own way makes the Kingdom of Hollowness feel less like a game and more like a living, breathing, or once breathing anyway, landscape for the player to enjoy. Hollow Knight has truly set the bar, and defined how a modern Metroidvania game should be designed. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Is there anything we missed? Are there any other Metroidvania games out there you think we should take a look at? Tell us in the comments below. Well, this has been Danny from Real Nice Gamers, reminding you that while the internet is not a classy place, you are classy. Stay that way. Adios.